The cafeteria at Westbrook High pulsed with the usual chaos of lunch hour, a symphony of clattering trays, shouted conversations, and the occasional screech of a chair against linoleum. Amid the frenzy, Arya, a 17-year-old with an unassuming frame and calm, piercing eyes, threaded through the crowd, her lunch tray balanced in hands hardened by calluses. She was the new girl, fresh from a small military base, her past locked away in sealed records that even the principal couldn't fully access. She found an empty table in the corner, sat quietly, and began to eat, her long sleeves brushing the edge of her tray. To the other students, she was invisible, just another face in the crowd. They had no idea who she was or what she could do. A sudden crash shattered the moment. Her tray hit the floor, food scattering like confetti. Chad, an 18-year-old football jock with a smirk as wide as his ego, towered over her. His broad shoulders and loud voice marked him as the school's self-proclaimed king, the kind of guy who thrived on attention and fear. "Oops," he said, his tone dripping with mockery. "Didn't see you there, quiet freak." Laughter erupted around them, a chorus of hyenas egged on by Chad's crew, a pack of alpha wannabes who ruled Westbrook's halls. Students pointed, phones already out, ready to capture the humiliation for their stories and snaps. Arya stood still, her expression unreadable, her silence louder than their gears. They thought she was weak, a nobody, a mouse to be toyed with. They didn't know she could break a man's arm in 3 seconds flat. Earlier that morning, in the principal's office, Arya had sat across from Principal Harris, a frazzled man in his 50s who shuffled through her file with a mix of curiosity and unease. "Welcome to Westbrook High, Miss Arya," he said, glancing up. She nodded, offering no small talk, her pen moving with precision as she signed the enrollment forms. Her long sleeves hid the scars and calluses on her hands, the kind earned from years of training most kids her age couldn't imagine. Harris sensed something off. Her file was thin, marked confidential, with no details beyond her name and a vague reference to a military base. Even he didn't know her full story. Arya didn't care to explain. She wasn't here to make friends or impress anyone. She was here because she had to be. Back in the cafeteria, Chad and his crew had already pegged her as their next target. To them, she was just another silent mouse, easy to break. "We'll have her crying by the end of the week," Chad muttered to his friends, tossing a football between his hands. They didn't know she'd spend her mornings sparring with Marines, her afternoons running obstacle courses that left grown men gasping. They didn't know her calm wasn't shyness, was control. The bell rang, and the hallway filled with students streaming toward their next classes. Chad spotted Arya near her locker, her backpack slung over one shoulder. He saw his chance. "Yo, freak," he called, striding over with his crew trailing behind. He snatched her bag before she could react, holding it high like a trophy. "What's in here?" "Bricks, your diary." He shook it, expecting a reaction, a flinch, maybe tears. Arya didn't blink. Her eyes locked onto his, steady and unyielding. In one fluid motion, she stepped forward, grabbed his wrist, and flipped him over her shoulder. The move was clean, precise, almost surgical. Chad hit the ground hard, the air rushing out of him in a pained grunt. The hallway fell silent. Nobody moved. Nobody laughed. His crew stood frozen, their bravado evaporating as Arya retrieved her bag. "Don't touch my things," she said, her voice low, and walked away. By the next period, the story had spread like wildfire. Locker room whispers turned into TikToks, memes, and group chats buzzing with the same phrase: "Quiet girl. Code the quarterback." Chad's ego was shattered, but the real blow was his dad, the head of the school board, a man who hated losing even more than his son. That night, at Chad's sprawling house, he and his crew plotted revenge. "We'll get her kicked out," Chad said, his voice tight with anger. "Fake an attack. Pin it on her. Easy." They didn't know Arya's guardian wasn't just some random relative. They didn't know about Colonel Reynolds. The next day, the plan unfolded. Chad limped into the principal's office, clutching his arm, his face a mask of exaggerated pain. "She attacked me," he claimed, pointing at Arya, who sat calmly. Across from Principal Harris, the staff room was packed, teachers, counselors, even a few curious students who'd caught wind of the drama. Chad's crew backed him up, their stories rehearsed, their outrage convincing. Arya said nothing, her silence a wall no one could breach. Harris looked uneasy, his eyes darting between Chad's theatrics and Arya's stillness. "We take these accusations seriously," he said, pulling up the security footage. The room held its breath as the grainy video played. It showed everything. Chad lunging at Arya, her stepping aside, redirecting his momentum with minimal force, never striking back. She'd defended herself perfectly, legally, with restraint. Gasps filled the room. Chad's face drained of color. Before anyone could speak, the door swung open. A man in a crisp military uniform strode in, his presence commanding silence. Colonel Reynolds, Arya's guardian, carried himself with the weight of someone who'd seen battlefields and boardrooms. "For the record," he said, his voice cutting through the tension, Arya passed her black belt at 14. She trained special forces in hand-to-hand combat. The room went still. Principal Harris's jaw dropped. She's certified, he stammered. Reynolds nodded. If she'd wanted to hurt your son, he wouldn't be standing. Chad sank into his seat, his bravado gone, his dad's influence meaningless in the face of truth. By the next morning, the school had changed. The jocks, once untouchable, stepped aside when Arya walked by. Some even nodded, a grudging respect in their eyes. In the cafeteria, a girl from the bleachers ran up, her face lit with admiration. "You're my hero," she said. "Can you teach me?" For the first time, Arya smiled, a small crack in her stoic facade. That week, she started a girls' self-defense class after school. Girls who'd once shrunk from Chad's crew now stood taller, their confidence growing with every session. Even a few teachers joined, drawn to Arya's quiet strength. Westbrook High wasn't the same. It wasn't just about one girl flipping a bully, it was about power speaking loudest when it said nothing at all. The story didn't end there. On MidnightTales, my YouTube channel, we dove deeper, sharing Arya's journey with thousands who'd felt underestimated, mocked, or silenced. The comments flooded in. Silent power. She's a legend. The video racked up views, likes, and shares. Each one a nod to those who'd ever been called a freak, a nobody, or a mouse. If you've ever been underestimated, I said in the outro, let them hear your strength. Drop silent power in the comments, like this video, and subscribe to MidnightTales for more stories where justice speaks louder than hate. Impact rippled beyond the school. Girls who'd never spoken up now carried themselves with purpose. Chad's crew, humbled, kept their distance. Even the teachers seemed different, more aware of the quiet ones, the ones who didn't need to shout to be heard. Arya didn't seek the spotlight, she didn't need to. Her actions, her restraint, her skill set enough. She wasn't just the new girl anymore, she was a force, a reminder that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it's the silence that shakes the room. Weeks later, the self-defense class grew. Girls laughed as they practiced throws, their voices filling the gym with something new confidence. Arya moved among them, correcting stances, offering quiet encouragement. She didn't talk about her past, but the rumors swirled. Trained by Marines, raised on a base, maybe even tied to some secret ops. Nobody knew for sure, and she didn't care to clarify. Her mystery only fueled her legend. On MidnightTales we posted a follow-up, a montage of the girls' training. Arya's calm voice guiding them. Power isn't about being loud, she said in one clip, her eyes steady. It's about knowing you can. The video hit 1 million views. The comment section, a sea of silent power and heart emojis. Chad never bothered her again. His dad tried to push the issue, but the security footage and Colonel Reynolds' presence shut him down. The school board couldn't touch her, not when her guardian had connections that reached far beyond their small town. Chad's crew fractured, some drifting away, others quietly joining the crowd that now respected Arya. The cafeteria, once a battleground, felt lighter. Students still filmed their TikToks, but now they captured moments of camaraderie, not cruelty. Arya's story wasn't just about one day or one fight. It was about what happens when someone underestimates the quiet ones. It was about the power that lies in restraint, in skill, and refusing to be defined by others' mocking laughter. On MidnightTales we kept telling her story, not just because it was viral, but because it mattered. It spoke to every kid who'd ever felt invisible, every person who'd been called weak only to prove they were anything but. Subscribe to MidnightTales and let's keep sharing stories where the underdog rises, where silence becomes strength, and where justice doesn't need a megaphone to be heard.